Hey guys, welcome back to the 429 podcast. I'm 4.
I'm 2.
And I'm 9.
And today we have episode number 24 of Techcast. So, without further ado, it's been a pretty interesting week, and let's go ahead and get through some of our tech news. So,
hit us with it.
First article of the week: price gouging due to COVID is becoming very, very easy to see. Now, this particular case of it occurs out of the UK, but some of these students in the UK are finding that some of their ebooks are costing up to 500% more than their print copies.
Oh, just 500?
500% more, right? That's like nothing. It's hardly anything.
That's a great discount year over year. I'm just saying.
Books are already expensive as it is, and now you've got some of these students being literally like it's price gouging. Like there's nothing. You can't say anything about it. That's absolutely what it is. The physical copies are harder to get because of the pandemic. People are less likely to be at school, so they don't have access to their giant libraries and whatnot. It's absolutely companies taking advantage of the pandemic and just increasing their prices specifically. So I think that this is kind of terrible to say the least. And what are your guys' takes? Is there any room for this to ever happen? Because personally, I don't think so.
It's gonna happen, sadly, but it shouldn't happen. That's pretty much. It's one of those things where it shouldn't happen, but it's gonna happen. And until someone just calls out, the wolf in sheep clothing, it's just gonna continue. It's one of those things where just companies kind of push the boundaries of it until someone calls them out, oh, my bad, and then just hopefully this gets resolved in a week or so, especially with schools starting up soon. Yep. I think next week actually, right?
Yep.
A lot of schools are starting up next week. Some of them already started this week.
Started this week.
So this is prime time for students to getting their lists, figuring out what books they want. So I imagine, the books they need. I imagine this is gonna be one of those things where it's gonna happen for another week, and then well after everyone got their books, Amazon's gonna be like, you know what, you're right. We'll fix that right away. After everyone already got their book for this season. So hopefully I'm wrong, but that's my prediction. What do you think, too?
Look, price gouging for books has been happening since the beginning of time, right? I can't even say anything along those lines there.
My great-great-great-grandfather has suffered from
Yep.
That's sad. It really is. But
hello?
Yep, we got you back. You're back.
Yeah, sorry, my Discord crashed. But as I was saying, price gouging for books has been happening since the beginning of time, right? So I'm not really surprised that this is happening. Now, should they happen during COVID times? We can all agree, no. But no one's really. I feel like the pandemic has really brought out the worst in people, and this is just one of those examples, right? And so it sucks that this is going on, but what can we really do here?
Yep. No, I got you. And I know. According to this article, there are some legal actions being taken. People are calling for investigations and lawsuits to occur because I don't know the particular law in the EU, but I know that in the U.S. and many states it's illegal for places like gas stations to hike up their prices during storms and whatnot. So I would imagine this would be very similar and fall under certain natural disaster exceptions in terms of price gouging allowances. But anyway, that was pretty interesting. Let's move into the next article. This is a big one, right? This is probably the biggest thing that's happened this week. I'm sure you guys have all heard about it by now, and this is, the whole Robinhood and GameStop and, the short squeeze, as we'll call it, right?
I didn't hear about this.
So this is...
You're living under a rock, then.
This has been the biggest news of the week, and, I don't even know if it's quite necessary to go super in-depth onto all of the stuff that's happened because you've probably been spammed with it for, hours across every other outlet you've ever seen. But... essentially, what was happening this week was a group of Redditors on a subreddit called r/Wall Street Bets noticed that a certain financial hedge fund was overexposed in terms of risk on their short positions on GameStop stock. And this led the subreddit to all start purchasing this GameStop stock and thus causing the price to drastically increase by thousands of percentage points and essentially cost that hedge fund billions of dollars. And now this has been going on, and it's just a big fight pretty much of Reddit and I guess you could call it the working class versus all of these hedge funds that want to continue to be top players in terms of the short market, and they're trying to really punish them for it. And one of the big articles that we got that came out of this was Google deleting over 100,000 negative reviews from Robinhood's app. So Robinhood, in response to this whole situation, started halting trading in terms of purchase orders on GameStop and AMC and some other related stock. And obviously their users were very upset by this, and they started getting spammed with negative reviews, hundreds of thousands of them. They lost, I think, their 4-star rating. They were tanking in terms of the review area. And Google, and I believe both Apple as well, it's not listed on this article, but I'm almost certain they did as well, deleted thousands, tens and hundreds of thousands of negative reviews. So I think that, overall the situation is really crazy, but, Google and Apple just deleting reviews from legitimate users after having legitimate experiences is not right either. It kind of degrades the entire review, market, or I guess the whole point of reviews, if you ask me. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think it's kind of, I guess, shitty in a way. Pretty much, yeah, I guess the best way to say is shitty. That you have a legitimate concern, right? And, maybe it as form as a mass protest or a mass attack, but it's still legitimate concerns, legitimate complaints, stuff like that. And it's just being swept under the rug completely.
Yep.
So it's, also, I assume that this is all being done without Google even addressing this. This was only really found out by someone else realizing that Google's been deleting them. Google didn't have, I don't think Google came out and said we're deleting these because we think its emotions are too high right now.
Yep.
If they said that and maybe kind of prefixed that, maybe it would have been a little bit different, And I can kind of understand that because in some aspects it's their store. They can have, their policy and stuff like that. But them trying to do it stealthily under the rug, that makes it really more sketchy and a little bit more gross, in my opinion. So not a fan. Google lost some big points for me in that regard. And it just shows that pretty much it doesn't matter what side you're on. One of these days, you're just going to be swept under.
Yep. Dude, what do you think? What are you feeling?
Yeah, it's like I've been following the Reddit thread of r/Wall Street Bets, right? And, a lot of what they're saying is true more and more that we see it every day, right? We keep seeing big businesses that are lined by, Wall Street's pockets for literally just saving their pockets, right? It's literally just protecting big business over and over and over again. And it's just not, the most efficient thing that we see. And it sucks because it really hurts the little dude. And I don't know, I'm very appalled by Google's actions here for removing the reviews, especially if they were legitimate users. Now, if they're illegitimate users, fine. But if they were legitimate users of the app, which I believe you have to be to even post a review, I feel that all the reviews were in the right regard. And I'm deeply upset by what Robinhood has been doing. And I've seen their CEOs come out and speak out and everything, but it just completely, this puts a whole other level on just trading and investing, right? And it's just upsetting into the community itself.
I agree with you. I do want to point something else out, though. This is something I was reading about the other day. So supposedly a lot of these lawsuits that are coming up against Robinhood and other, brokers that are, that halting or limiting trading on these, I guess, what they would consider highly volatile stocks. So take Robinhood, for example. One of the reasons I was reading that Robinhood might have been halting purchase orders on GameStop stock is actually a pretty legitimate reason. And what I had read was that Robinhood has to put forward a deposit on every purchase order they fulfill, right? So they're not executing their own trades. So trades don't actually, you don't actually own the security. You don't have the physical medium until 2 days after you submit the trade order, right? So Robinhood has to kind of put up that money for you. And when you have this type of, I guess, volume occurring from all of these other people and, all this volatility, that creates a certain amount of risk. And, now they're putting their neck out there, having all of this open credit and all of this risk exposure. So, they're probably, I don't know a whole ton about that whole process, but if I had to guess, they're probably going to try and use something like that as their defense in, for example, I believe the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, just put.
I'll tell you one thing right here, right? if this is happening, right, and if that is a thing, then straight up, Robinhood has to come out and say that we can't support our own business, right?
Yep.
You are literally putting, the Wall Street bettors guys say gains, right? But from those in the finance industry, you're really putting, profit on hold for a lot of these retail investors,
Yep.
which is pathetic because
Absolutely.
it's retail investors, right? Although retail investors are a small minority of the market because of how things have been, with the advent of the internet, with the advent of Google, with the advent of all these different protocols and frameworks and pieces of information and information lines, everyone has the same knowledge now, right? So knowledge is an equal playing field now. And for the tools not to be of an equal playing field, that's just literally putting people at a complete disadvantage who shouldn't be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I agree.
And so Robinhood should honestly come out and say that we can't support our own business. And if you can't support my business, I'm sorry, but you should go to another trading platform, whether it be, I don't know, I don't trade. So it's like, I don't know the other trading platform, like E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, whatever they are, right? Go to those trading platforms instead and do it than going to Robinhood.
And, I know there were a lot of other brokerages and trading platforms that also halted trading and purchase orders, or at least limited them on those same securities and stocks at that point in time. So, I mean...
But notably, there was one that didn't. I actually read about this because, we've praised, you guys have all heard us, we've praised Robinhood for the work that they've done within the financial and technology sectors over and over again on this podcast. But this one really struck a bad chord because this is pathetic of what they've been doing. But Fidelity, believe it or not, was one of the few, actually, I think one of the only two, I forgot what the other one was, but Fidelity was one of the major ones that actually did not halt any trading on GameStop, right, during this whole interesting craze that was going on. And the main reason was simple, right? Fidelity owned enough shares that it could support its business, right? It was a primary brokerage to support its business. And, sometimes, it sucks that you should go to a little player and support the little businesses. But when the big business is the one having the best support and the best infrastructure in place to support it, you're going to go there, right? Especially now that Fidelity offers zero trading, such as does Robinhood now, because Robinhood changed the game in trading, right? Really, Robinhood has, at this point, no credible advantage over the other trading platforms, in my honest opinion.
That's not true. They got that nice mobile UI. Can't be.
All right. From a front-end developer's perspective,
they got that working. But Fidelity, you can still get on that. You could. It's not too late. Just copy.
This has been a really crazy week. It's going to be interesting to see where all these lawsuits go and what comes out of it. And I mean, like you said, just to kind of leave on this final note, I think you're right. If Robinhood was really having risk issues and didn't want to take that extra risk and put their neck out there to keep fulfilling orders like this, they should have come out right away in a statement publicly and said so. I don't understand why they would not have done that. And I mean, really, I'm pretty sure they're IPOing soon. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think by not squashing everything that was going on right away, they really might have just killed themselves. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Again, this goes back to the Google situation. If they just prefixed it and just honest, clear communication from the start, I think it would have been a lot less, criticism and harsh feedback from what it is now. Looking into it, because I didn't even know about the whole thing you said about Robinhood until now, right? And that actually makes sense, and that actually prefix. Okay, you know what? That's fair. Again, what Tu said earlier, they have that disadvantage, and that maybe be enough for me to go to Fidelity if I was a trader. But at least now there's a legitimate reason rather than just feeling like I'm being tacked on, right?
Yep.
But again, time is critical for these things. If I'm hearing this information from a third party and not from your mouth directly, I already lost all respect coming from you. I shouldn't be hearing this from Wall Street Journal. I should be hearing this from your mouth first.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And the disinformation campaign that's been going on surrounding all of this, right? And all these billionaires really coming out and saying I'm losing a lot of money. Look, retail investors have been shut down for a while, right? And, we've talked about it earlier this week, but this is a revolution we're seeing, right? I'm very interested to see how this revolution plays out. I will not be a participant in the revolution personally,
Yep,
right?
Same.
So I won't be trading, I won't be investing, I won't be doing any of that, right? But to all the Redditors and all the people out there that are investing and going crazy and joining in the revolution, I wish the best of luck to you, because taking down Wall Street is serious business, right? Like I don't know if you guys ever remember Occupy Wall Street, right, and the whole movement there, but like this is a whole different level of hitting them where it hurts, and so we'll see how it plays
really
out.
Where it hurts, yeah.
Occupy Wall Street was nothing more than just a couple of protests. I mean, now you've actually caused hedge funds to lose tens of billions of dollars. So they're listening now.
I think a hedge fund failed. I think 1 or 2 hedge funds actually had to file bankruptcy because of this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this just goes to show you, and also I think more importantly, right? It shows that like shorting should be more have more
regulated.
Regulation. Yeah.
And, we'll also see, because these hedge funds that didn't have to go bankrupt, I mean, there's a chance that some of them might actually get more aggressive going into the future now, because they've got heavy losses they need to write off next year. So they want to win.
Yeah.
But then, what also scares me is the manipulation factor that may come in. They may, because we've seen it now on all Wall Street bets, right?
Yep.
There's been a lot of misinformation bots that have been going around on all Wall Street bets and trying to influence people to invest in other stocks to get them out of their GameStop positions, right?
Yep.
And the other aspect that's really interesting in this whole thing that you bring up, the Robinhood piece, right? Because I've done a lot of research into this, is that Robinhood is actually backed by one of the biggest hedge funds in the world, Citadel.
Yep.
Right? So
they're executing most of Robinhood's trades, I think, like up to 40%.
It's all a conflict of interest here, right? It's all big business and conflict of interest, and it sucks that this is the way it's going down. But anyway, let's continue.
I'd like to see Citadel's portfolio at the end of this next month here, because they're executing and clearing most of Robinhood's trades, where most of these people were performing trades to begin with, and how do we know they weren't just front running? And they're getting all that data shipped right to them. All their investors have free look at it, and bam, right? Like, who knows? It's interesting.
Yeah,
they have access to it all, right? It's kind of crazy. Anyway, let's move on.
But anyway, let's keep going.
We spent a lot of time here. I'm kind of going to roll these 2 articles into one. So this is a big one. This is coming out of Apple. In one of the new upcoming Apple updates, we're going to see a privacy feature added to the operating system. So the purpose of this is to prevent third-party app tracking, right? So what Apple wants to be able to do is make it so that way before an application can have access to other third-party apps and systems on your phone, you need to approve that. So this is obviously starting a huge war with Facebook, pretty much, right? Who is king of data and only wants to be able to get as much tracking and information as they possibly can. And this leads us into the second article, where Facebook is now preparing a massive antitrust lawsuit against Apple, specifically because of their unfair approach to privacy and default apps. So, I mean, this is going to be big. We see Apple is now fighting wars on multiple fronts, right? Facebook is going at them for antitrust. We've still got Epic going at them for antitrust, which we haven't had an update on in a while.
It's gonna take a
while.
while.
We'll have to check and see.
I think the next lawsuit's scheduled for May. It's gonna be another 4 more months.
Got it. Damn. But I mean, like you see, there's a lot of skin in this antitrust game right now, even among these top tech companies, right? And then you've got other companies like Parler, who was going after Amazon for antitrust for kicking them off their AWS web servers. Like there's a lot of, I guess, war happening right now between and towards your big tech companies. And this kind of goes right back into what we just talked about. There's a war on the elites is really what's occurring. It's kind of a crazy time right now. So what are your thoughts on this all?
I'll give you my quick thoughts on just the Facebook thing. Facebook should be the last company going after someone for an antitrust lawsuit. All right, let's not even go there. Right? Like, you're really having Facebook, out of all people, go at an antitrust lawsuit? That too against Apple, which has been so pro-consumer. Like, what world are we freaking living in that someone's actually taking this case into consideration here, right? So, like, I think it's a stupid idea that Facebook's trying to do this, and Facebook's only doing this, to be honest with you, because Apple, again, it's back to what we just talked about, right? Apple's hitting them where it hurts, their wallet, right? Yep. Apple's new security features with Safari, the new security features on the iPhone, the new security features on everything is exposing basically all the malicious shit that Facebook's been doing for years now, right?
Yep.
So, you know what? it's the only way Facebook, I guess, can counteract this is with a lawsuit instead of actually doing a better engineering job at hiding their features. But it is what it is here, right? So let's see what goes down. But Nine, what were you saying?
I was saying pretty much. Well, I agree with you. I mean, it's just I've read this a comment somewhere about this article, and they're pretty much gonna. It kind of summarizes pretty well. There's gonna be two types of internet after this. It's gonna be the internet where Apple wins or one where Facebook wins. I think that's how drastic this decision and the predecessor this can set. If depending.
I agree.
You're gonna have a very pro-consumer internet or very what's it called, company focused, company favored internet. I hope.
We talked about this last week, but if Facebook wins this lawsuit, Brave, you have a new user coming your way.
100%.
This is kind of interesting though, right? Because let's step back a second. I'm sure you guys remember maybe it was a couple months ago, we talked about how they were thinking about adding more regulations in the EU regarding default apps on the iPhone and Android, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember this.
And
I think it was one of your episodes,
actually one of the pieces that is going to be included in this antitrust lawsuit towards Apple, right? So it's going to be interesting to see because there's pieces of the lawsuit that I think actually have merit and might actually be warrantable, but then there's pieces of it that also make absolutely no sense. It's like, for example, the fact that Apple has privacy features on their phone and doesn't want to allow data collection, that's going to get thrown out. I don't see how that will ever get upheld in court, right? I mean, privacy for the consumer is never a bad thing.
I agree.
Now, when you think about the default apps on a phone, we just saw this a couple months ago happening in the European Union. These are massive legislation pushes happening over there where they're like, oh, you've got Apple Music on your phone, but Spotify's not default. These smaller things aren't default. This puts them at a disadvantage. And it does. It puts them at a disadvantage, right? So, I mean, really, we're going to have to see that case go to court, and I'd like to see what they decide on it because it's becoming, the lines of private business in terms of these tech companies, it gets more blurred with public space every single day. And, like, take the internet, for example, and social media. They're public forums, yet they're run by private companies, right? So do you have constitutional rights on private forums? Who knows? I really think that we're going to have to see legislation and lawsuits coming forward to either affirm or deny these rights. And, I mean, I think that these cases need to happen, so one way or another.
I agree.
Well,
let's keep on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next, let's talk about another big hack that happened. We're back on SolarWinds. So this is new news.
With it.
Supposedly, up to 30% of people who were, victimized, quote unquote, by SolarWinds didn't actually use SolarWinds.
What?
So,
can you explain what SolarWinds is?
Yeah, so SolarWinds, as far as I know, it's an infrastructure tool used for like firewalls and just access and logging and different things by a ton of companies, a lot of Fortune 500 companies all over the government. They're very large.
Okay.
So, anyway, they had like we talked about a couple weeks ago. They had a massive breach where pretty much almost every single one of their clients was breached at I believe it was an update server that had the password like SolarWinds123 or something, and that was what I think was one of the main entry points, but. We're now learning that there were other intrusion vectors that were used to gain access, and up to 30% of people who had data loss from this breach didn't even use the company. And I mean, that's kind of really interesting to me, and it just goes to show you how different attacks, like this article in particular mentions password spraying to compromise individual email accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, they're talking about. That was the main one they mentioned in here, but I mean, it just goes to show you how easy these hackers have it at getting a minimal amount of information and using that to gain access to not only your company but people you do business with as well, which is why vendor security is such a big problem. Right, so
definitely agree.
Very interesting. There's really not much to go through there. It's kind of just a quick statement, but we can move on to this one, which I think you guys are definitely going to have opinions on, and then we'll get to our next big story. So, New Massachusetts will ban. Is proposing a bill that would ban broadband caps during the pandemic.
Yes.
New Massachusetts?
It's just Massachusetts. I misread the title. It's a new Massachusetts bill would ban broadband caps during the pandemic is what it says. This is from Vice.
I was like, I was like, is this a 51st state? Like,
no,
what
it's
is
not.
this?
No.
I
misread. That was my fault. But anyway, obviously there's a lot of price gouging happening, just like we saw earlier with ebooks in the UK and Britain, and there's also purportedly some price gouging happening in terms of the telecom sector when it comes to internet bill, internet usage, and data caps and whatnot. So some lawmakers are not having any of this, and they really want to make sure that people who need it, especially people in low-income communities that cannot afford to be paying for more internet than they already have, are not going to be really hit by new data caps that come in and price gouging. So personally, I think this is a great bill. I think price gouging, due to natural disasters like a pandemic, are no joke, and they're already seeing more customers than ever. Your internet-related businesses are doing bigger business than they've ever dreamed of doing before right now, because of all the people that are being forced to use their services. And I just think that there's really no downside to this right now in terms of protecting consumers during a natural disaster.
Yeah,
Complete agreement with everything you just said.
No,
like, I've already voiced my opinion earlier in this episode, so yeah. I'm good here.
Is this a state bill or this
is a state bill?
Okay, so this should be.
It's from the new state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, I already know about the state. This is the 57th.
51st state. Yeah.
No, 57. They're skipping 6 ones.
Oh, they are. Okay, got it.
It should be. The only thing I would change about this is make this across the country. That's the only thing I would change. 100%. We already seen the pandemic companies have trying to take advantage of this and kind of ban bottle cap people, especially now we're using the internet more. That there's no even argument about this. Like internet is pretty much have become a need in the last couple of months.
Yeah,
for schooling, for work, for pretty much anything,
even for everything, for living, for entertainment, for everything.
Everything, not even entertainment. Like if you want to take away entertainment for something that's not even a need, you need it for groceries. So some people use it for grocery shopping, as contact is very
it's literally used for food, water, and shelter, which are basic human necessities.
At this point, it's pretty much a need, especially with the climate we're in right now. So this should be just nationwide.
I agree. I want to spring us forward a little bit here. If you look down a couple articles, there's one from Vox as well. So, and this is really true, and this kind of ties into this, how the internet is such a need right now. So one of the big hurdles in terms of, the pandemic is getting vaccinated, and getting vaccinated happens online. You need to fill out an appointment through your state's system on the internet, right? So it just proves to you how absolutely of a necessity the internet is right now. Some of these people cannot get back to normal life without being vaccinated. They cannot do it. Almost everybody can. I don't think we can really get back to any level of normalcy without some type of herd immunity from vaccines. But regardless of that, and moving slightly off topic, not all seniors even have the internet skills to really fill out these forms by themselves. I know one of my friends was telling me he was helping his grandma fill out the form, and it was like 52 questions where they required like 7 uploads of documents to the website. Like, how many people do you know that can't do that are, younger, let alone if you're, 65 plus trying to get this type of stuff done? It's a huge hurdle, and I think that this is really a crucial error in the part of the government in, trying to set up these vaccine appointments, especially with the older crowd of people, because a lot of them just cannot do it alone. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, very much agree. This is...
Yeah, agreed. This goes back to, people filing taxes, too, right? We're talking about vaccines here, but this has been a age-long issue with taxes as well, where, you've had people who could just not be able to file taxes because they don't have access to the internet, right? So, it's the same stuff here.
Taxes. I was even thinking about, a couple of years ago when we were doing the whole healthcare thing. Remember, we had to apply online.
Look how there's so many. We just named 3 instances right here in just this 2 minutes of how internet's a basic necessity for these people, right? So this just shows you right here, right? And to 9 and 4's point as well, this is a need now, right? You can't. There's just no better way to put it. That this is a need.
Even post-pandemic, as people kind of claim, well, we're gonna probably go back the way we're not gonna go back to the way.
No.
It's just impossible. We might have a hybrid system, right? Things might normalize to a point, of course, but we're not going to go back to the complete things. Right? COVID has
not at all.
The way
not at all.
How work.
COVID has permanently sprung us forward probably a decade in internet usage.
Pretty much. Pretty much, and
at least 5, and at the bare minimum, it's 5 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I wish it could have been done without all the deaths and tragic family loss and stuff like that. But at least hopefully this will now shine a light to Congress and stuff like that. That this is more of a need than just a want at this point, and hopefully things change with that movement. Yep. So we'll see.
Agreed. Well, there is some good news in terms of internet access, and I'll let this kind of spring us into this topic right here. SpaceX is planning their next generation Starlink already.
Starlink?
Yep. So they launched about 1,000 satellites so far, and also just give a brief background right now for those of you who don't know. Starlink is a SpaceX product, Elon Musk, where their goal is eventually to be able to provide high-speed internet to anyone on the planet, and they're doing this by deploying a variety of, I believe they're in mid-orbit satellites, thousands of them. Really, they're not like giant satellites. They're relatively smaller packages compared to what you would think of when you think of satellite.
Yeah, like each rocket deploys like 10,000 satellites.
Correct, yes. I think they've deployed 1,000 over 18 launches so far for V.9 and 1.0. And now they've roadmapped V1.5 and 2.0, which is going to, obviously increase in speed, more reliable, all your, regular stuff, as well as just deploying more of them, right? So they'll continue to improve on the technology and continue to deploy more. And this is a real threat to internet service providers everywhere, right? Because if you can have Starlink able to provide, even if it's just decent, right? If you can get 100 megabit per second download through Starlink, you've already given almost everyone on the planet just the same speeds, if not better than what they currently have. And not the fact that you can just launch more satellites to increase bandwidth and utilization, right? Like it's so easy for them to expand. Just launch more satellites, launch more, right? It's very.
I just have to say one thing. I just have to say one response to this, right? And that's goodbye, Comcast. Haha. Like they're just they're done. They're done.
It pretty much is equivalent to what Robinhood, that we talked about earlier, has done for the cost of instant trading and like low cost entry to trading, right? Once that precedent is set, once the competition has set the bar, everyone has to follow suit, which means the consumer wins all around.
Yep.
Right. This is exactly.
And I'm excited, especially because this is Elon right here, right? And Elon, I trust, man. Like
Elon
has shown time and time again that not only does he care about like the people, right? He also, 2, doesn't really care about money, but 3, the most important thing is his work wants to make an impact on people's lives every day for the better, right? Whether that's through electric cars, right? Payment processing with PayPal. Think about that for a second, right? He started literally virtual payment processing.
He did.
He restarted electric vehicles, right? And now he's trying to bring
a necessity.
Sorry?
I was going to say, I don't know
now he's trying to bring
world that deserves the title of richest man more than Elon Musk at this point.
Pretty much. Man deserves it at this point. Well, the advancements he brought us as a society forward, totally deserves it at this point.
And look, he's only richest man for now, dude. I guarantee you within the next 2 years, this dude's going to be broke and sleeping on Larry Page's couch again, right? Only because he's going to take that money and start another company that's going to do even better for humanity.
Yeah. No, I really do. I envy Elon Musk. I think he's one of the best and biggest players. Obviously, he's the biggest, but he's probably one of the best people in big tech right now. And I really, I think he's a good person to look up for everybody. He's got a great story. He's doing great work. And, I mean, his life goal is literally to guarantee the survival of the human race. So,
yeah,
crazy
pretty much.
guy.
You can't say much better things about him.
Yeah.
After this, it's going to be Mars.
And this kind of actually leads us in again. I feel like there's a lot of leading us into the next topic right now. I didn't even do this on purpose, but, this leads us into the next topic I'm looking at, which is a technological breakthrough that allows seamless conversion of ammonia to hydrogen. So, this is a report out of Northwestern University where researchers have developed an effective and environmentally friendly method for converting ammonia to hydrogen. Right? So, this is one of the big areas outside of electric that we look towards for green energy, right? So just once again, a little bit of background. Take Teslas, for example, right? What does a Tesla do? It takes energy in, it uses that, to power your electric motors, right? But how is that energy created? You have to burn some type of fuel or solar panels or something, right? Whatever. And it's also a chemical reaction within the battery that allows you to store it. But regardless, there's another form of, I guess, better clean energy that's similar to electric, but maybe it's a little bit dirty. I don't quite know the numbers behind this, but it's another one that's touted as a green energy source. And this is hydrogen, right? So if you think of the system of electrolysis, right? What do you do for electrolysis? You break apart water by giving it an electric current, and you create oxygen and hydrogen, right? And this is often what is looked towards in terms of like big rocket engines and whatnot, right? Using stuff like hydrogen and oxygen to power large engines that need massive amounts of thrust. But this reaction can happen in reverse, right? So when you have reverse electrolysis, you essentially will generate electricity by taking oxygen and hydrogen and recombining them back into water. Right, so you create a water vapor, you create electricity, and the input for that reaction was hydrogen and oxygen. Now you can use this electricity to power a car engine the same way that you would use it as a battery, right? So instead of having a battery in the car, you have an electrolysis engine where you combine oxygen and hydrogen to create an electric current and also water vapor. So this is also considered a very, very clean source of energy. There's a handful of cars in the market right now that use technology like this, and supposedly they actually can go up to 50% further than Tesla cars, is what I was reading on this topic about a week ago. So, hydrogen fuel cells are another really, really interesting piece of the puzzle in terms of getting to, a point of fully renewable clean energy. And, finding a solid source of hydrogen is, one of the harder parts. But now that you can, use ammonia, this is another really, really clean way to get hydrogen that's required in order to supply energy to these cars, and different things as well. So I thought this was really another really cool breakthrough, and this is just something that I've been personally interested in reading up on for the past week or so. So happy. This feels like
the story we talked about a few weeks ago about the whole reversing age thing.
Yep.
Where it sounds really impressive, but it sounds so smart to me that I can't figure out a instant implementation how to use it.
Yeah.
But I know it's impressive.
Well, here's how it would be used, right? You need to figure out a way to create hydrogen to power, for example, cars, right? Hydrogen fuel cell cars.
Yeah.
Being able to break ammonia into its components and get hydrogen out of that. Now that hydrogen can be used, in like a gas pump, for example, to fill up your car, that way you can get fueled up to drive further. Right, so this is just another method of now cleanly creating hydrogen that can be used to power cars, which is, like I said, that's always a good thing. More options is never bad.
More options is not bad. 100% agree. Again, this is just one of those things where it just sounds really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway,
but guys, I think we are up on time actually, right?
I want to do two things real quick, just brief. I want to touch on them real quick. Rapid fire these.
All right, go for it.
One, Netflix is looking to add a feature for automatic screen locking. So I'm sure you've all had a time where you're sitting on your bed, you fall asleep, Netflix plays, you wake up with a dead phone. Not anymore. Netflix wants to add the feature to either have your phone automatically lock after 15, 30, or 45 minutes. No more waking up with dead phone. 2, Telegram is now allowing you to bring across chat history from WhatsApp. So there's 100 people it claims to have gained over the last couple months, and they're looking to help service them. A lot of people left WhatsApp due to privacy concerns, which we've talked about previously, and having the option to bring over WhatsApp chat history is really, really helpful. Next, we've got Signal making major strides in terms of adding, really mainstream features. They've added chat wallpapers, and biofield on your profile, animated stickers, media auto downloads, and full screen profile photos for iOS, which were already on Android. So a bunch of new features coming to Signal as they seek to kind of expand their market share in the messaging system or messaging area. And this is kind of another topic we've talked about already, but the Chief of the United Nations is also calling for regulations on large social media companies, believing that you cannot let companies, a handful of them only, have the same kind of control that some nation states might be able to have. And I'm kind of in agreement with him on this, but I'm not. I'd like to see a little bit more details on exactly what he was talking about first. But any last minute thoughts you guys want to give? Otherwise, we'll kind of just end it up here.
I mean, I hope Signal brings up the pace too with Telegram. because Signal has always been kind of 1-to-1 with features.
Yep.
But Signal, as we talked about earlier, stronger security, just lacking in features. So bringing that up, I think that would be pretty much in the game even further.
I agree. I'm with you.
But I mean, that's pretty much.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's gonna be interesting to see how this all plays out, and I just can't wait to see the future of technology, as we say.
Yep. All right, guys. Anyway, well, this has been a really packed week. Kind of went over by a couple minutes here, but it's been the 429 Podcast. You know, if you want, go check us out on our website, the429podcast.com, at the 429 Podcast on all major social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You know, reach out to us. Let us know how we're doing, how you're doing, what you'd like to see. If you want us to do any more large, long episodes, we're happy to do it. Give us some recommendations, and maybe we can put out a couple more. Other than that, this has been Techcast episode 24, and we will see you next week.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
Cool. Bye, guys.